So it's a brisk, blustery day here at Seal Beach, and I used to live here. When I got out of college, I got an apartment here, and those were a wonderful time of life. And of course, I had chameleons in my small apartment here at the beach. I turned my dining room into a little bit of a free range. I literally put down plastic tarp across the whole dining room. I had little retaining walls made out of wood that I put on so none of the water would flow out, because of course I had a misting system and I had lights, and it's kind of a little bit crazy to think about putting together a bit of a little rainforest in your apartment, especially when you have a deposit to worry about. But the ironic thing is that when I finally did move out and I took down my little rainforest, the dining room was absolutely pristine. The carpet was just as new as when I moved in. So I should have done the entire apartment in my little rainforest. So I've decided to come on back and take a look at my old stomping grounds, and a lot of good memories. Today I've been thinking about knowing when to stop. And I am joined by my friend back there who's pruning away. So I'm in good company. And knowing when to stop, this came up because, as many of you know, I love Shiba Inus. That's the kind of dog I have, the Doge. And it's a special kind of dog. They're kind of called cat dogs because they're not your regular dog. And they have cat-like personalities. And they can take you or leave you. They want to be around you, but they'll be out of reach so you can't touch them. A little bit like a chameleon, maybe. Anyway, I have two, and my mother let me know that friends of hers wanted to rehome their Shiba Inu. So my knee-jerk reaction was, yeah, I'd love to, but I stopped myself because right now I'm happy. The dynamic between my Shiba Inus is established, and they're happy. And so we humans, we have this thing where if we're happy, we want more. And so we do more of what we think makes us happy. And I think many of you have experienced this, where you do so much of what makes you happy, you're not happy anymore. And this has a big parallel to chameleons. We get one chameleon, we're absolutely enthralled with it, we have a great time, and what could be better than one chameleon than two chameleons? And so we get another chameleon. And you see where this is going. We end up getting more and more and more until we reach the point where it's not fun anymore. It's more work than it is fun. And you've heard me say this before, because this year, the theme of this year, small batch breeding, is specifically for the breeder to maintain the joy and satisfaction and enjoyment with chameleons once you get into breeding, which is a time we get a lot of burnout. Hello, friend. And the way to avoid this, say we'll take out breeding for a while. We'll just talk about keeping and the collecting of different species, different specimens. The way to avoid this is to know when you're happy and stop while you're ahead. And I know with humans, this is tricky. This is tricky because when do you know when to stop? You don't know when you've gone too far until you've crossed that line. And you've done it for a while, and then you wake up and say, wait a minute, this isn't as fun as it used to be, but it should be fun because I got a lot of chameleons, and what could be better in life than having a lot of chameleons? I mean, I've been there before. So the trick is to stop while you're ahead, to embrace when you are happy, embrace that time, and not look to go beyond it. And so the question is, where is that line? If you have one, then having another is actually a little bit more enriching. There's more experiences, and you can definitely handle another one. A third one, Probably. Fourth one, well, let's consider it. How good of husbandry can we give 4? And I think when we start getting to 6, you got to really evaluate what you're doing before you go get more. And some of you are saying, 6? Who'd be crazy enough to get 6? Yeah, well, oh boy. Take me for example. Why not? At this point, I would love to have some Kaluma malthae. Those are the green elephant ear chameleons from Madagascar. I love that chameleon species. I would love to have them again. I had them a long time ago, and I would just love that. I'd love to have a female yellow-lipped parsons for my male yellow-lipped parsons. And the thing is, oh, and bifidus? Oh my goodness, Furcifer bifidus. These are all from Madagascar. That is an incredible chameleon. Love to have those. I've never had bifidus before. The thing is, I've had opportunities to have all of these and obtain all of these relatively recently, actually. And I have turned them down. Oh boy, it broke my heart to turn them down. But I've decided I'm going to be dedicating myself to the Shamrock Chameleon breeding project. I want to try out the small batch breeding. I believe that it's going to be good for me personally. It's not just altruistic, I'm going to do this for the community. I think it's going to be good for me personally. And so I have engaged the self-discipline, painfully, to turn down a number of these opportunities which have come up. And I know that it's the right decision, because if I added more, I know that it would dilute my efforts with my Shamrock breeding project. This Shamrock breeding project is not just having them, it's breeding them. And so even if I could handle them now, I need to account for the time where I have babies. So say I'm successful in breeding the Shamrock chameleons, which I have bred them, and I've gotten some infertile eggs. I have one clutch now. I'm not sure if it's infertile or fertile, so I haven't said anything about it. But I have some females that should be gravid. I should be having hatchlings by, what, 2025, spring 2025, summer 2025, if I'm successful. Let's assume I am. But the thing is, I have to assume I am, because if I use up all of my available space now for malthae, bifidus, and parsoni, then what happens when I have babies? What happens when I'm successful breeding malthae? What happens when my Jacksons surprise me with babies? Then I'm overwhelmed. And then my caging goes from top husbandry, naturalistic, to minimalistic, just so I can maintain it. And that's when the work overtakes the enjoyment. And I can't be proud of it. Yeah, I can show it and I can say, okay, this is how you do a breeding project, but I've done that already. I did I have an entire company, Dragonstrand, that was dedicated to allowing breeders to do this, because, let's see, Dragonstrand started in 2013. That was very important back then, because we needed to establish breeders. That was an important milestone in our community. We needed that for our community to grow. Now, we are turning our attention towards quality of care, the enrichment, and for that, we need to come at it from a different perspective. We still need breeders. I am not saying we don't need breeders. We absolutely still need breeders. I still have Dragonstrand. I'm still providing caging to breeders, and because they are a cornerstone of our community. Without the breeders, we are left with wild caught, and everything spirals down from there. So we need to protect, encourage, and support our breeders. And yeah, I have that. I'm now pushing naturalistic care, but the breeders saying, okay, breeders are with minimalistic care. And so, yeah, we don't have everything aligned just yet, but that's growth. That's what our community does. That's part of growing as a community, and we should expect this, and this will never change. But it is time for me, personally, to start exploring and implementing more of the small batch breeding protocols and concepts. And so that's what I'm doing. As you know, my last podcast episode was all about small batch breeding. It's something we talk about often on my live sessions. And that's because what it does is it limits how many chameleons we have. And one of the limiting factors is how much can we have and still enjoy it. Not how much can we have and still maintain them, but how much can we have and still enjoy it. I remember there used to be a time where we bragged about how many species we had, how many chameleons we could keep, and those were points in the community where, yeah, those were accomplishments. I am encouraged for the direction that we're going, where we're now taking pride in the quality of care that we're going to be able to give a limited number of chameleons. And so we're going in the right direction. And so my advice to you, coming from somebody who's done this for decades and has grown up with the community, has experienced all these stages of the community growth and my personal growth, I did not get satisfaction from numbers of chameleons. Yes, they certainly added to my experience, and a lot of what I am now is because I went through that. But you don't have to go through that. That was a certain stage of our community growth, and we're not there anymore. Our community is at a point where we're growing and figuring out how to best care for one chameleon, how to enrich our chameleons. And if you're just starting in chameleons, that's your generation, the generation of enrichment. This is an incredible generation to be part of. Embrace that. Don't go backwards. Don't go backwards and try to reclaim the olden days. There's nothing glorious about the olden days. The future of taking care of single chameleons in the absolute best way possible, enriching them, that is the future. That's where we're going. It's a great direction, and like I said, it's an exciting time to be part of the community. So I'm suggesting don't be eager to add numbers and numbers to your collection. Add quality, add experience. Experiment with the entire hydration cycle. Experiment with different lighting. Experiment with different feeding. This is the future, and this is your future. And for me, I'm glad to be part of this future as well. And I want to say thank you all for joining me in these morning vlogs. Each one of these I do as a premiere, and so if you are there at 5 a.m., we're in the chat. We have a nice tight-knit group that comes to the chat every morning, and it's a great way to start the day on a positive note. And so I invite you, 5 a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. Eastern, every morning we have this vlog and we have a chameleon touch point, and you're welcome to join us. And with that, I think it's time for me to check out some places from my past. And you know what? Go ahead, come along with me. Can you ever go back? Well, we can at least go back and visit.